In recent local elections right here in Texas, voters have made it known that they may be red, but they're not that red. Texan voters managed to oust several conservative incumbents from school boards, specifically incumbents who promoted book banning within their districts. In recent years, Texas has become the nation's leader in book banning, banning hundreds of titles from school libraries, most of which contained LGBTQ themes or have characters or authors that are just not white. Now, the general public has politely asked their school districts to stop doing that by voting in several candidates who oppose the book bans. So this is from the Texas Tribune. Saturday's election saw the defeat of numerous conservative school board trustees in the Tarrant County suburbs surrounding Fort Worth, the epicenter of the state's recent culture war fights over how students should learn about race and gender. All 7 school board candidates in contested races who were endorsed by the Tarrant County Republican Party lost their elections. And this isn't just about individual school board members. The influx of far-right candidates was a concerted effort to influence the public directly at the local level where they're going to feel it the most. The fight dates back to 2022, when a network of conservative donors and groups led by Patriot Mobile Action, a North Texas Christian nationalist PAC funded by a cell phone company, backed a slate of 11 school board candidates around the area, 10 of whom won their elections. That included major gains on the Mansfield ISD board, where the newfound conservative majority gave itself oversight over which library books could be added to school shelves, presaging a proposal now making its way through the legislature. Notably, the people of the Mansfield Independent School District, which sits in the suburban area between Dallas and Fort Worth, have been fighting back against the aggressive book bans for years. The now former board president, Kezia Valdez Farrar, was a strong proponent of the book bans. After public backlash, the district responded by saying, "We won't ban books anymore, but this committee that is appointed by us still will." On Saturday, Anna Alicia Horn became the new board president, winning 60% of the vote. Conservatives also lost big in Arlington, Grapevine, Colleyville, and Keller ISD on those boards, all of which are in the greater Dallas-Fort Worth area. Meanwhile, down in Houston, specifically in Katy, which sits just outside of Houston on the west side, now former board president Victor Perez was defeated by James Cross, a former school principal. Perez was very right-wing, a strong advocate of book bans, and he wanted the schools to inform parents if their children had requested to go by specific pronouns while in school. Cross now hopes to shift the district away from politics and partisanship and focus instead on the kids. What a concept. And over in Fort Bend ISD, which is south of Katy on the southwest side of Houston, Rick Garcia, who supported one of the state's most restrictive book ban policies, lost his board seat to Afi Charania. On her website, she wrote, "Book banning doesn't protect students, it limits them. These policies risk isolating vulnerable students, compromising educator autonomy, and prioritizing control over compassion." And if you're wondering if this is all a fluke, apparently it isn't. Frank Strong, a teacher who has been following Texas politics as it pertains to education for years, wrote on his Substack, "I've been covering Texas school board elections for 7 cycles. And as I have documented over and over again, book bans, attacks on educators and public schools, and attempts to target LGBTQ students do not fare well at the polls. Voters across Texas clearly and consistently punish the people who have been restricting students' reading and learning." He added, "They delivered a message. Texans are sick of book bans, sick of attacks on educators and librarians, sick of leaders waging culture war battles at the expense of good governance." However, while some are hopeful that this could be an indicator that Texas voters are more tuned into their local politics and that they're tired of the far-right MAGA agenda, others are less optimistic, or at least they're advising to be a little bit cautious. John Taylor, a political science professor at the University of Texas at San Antonio, says that we shouldn't get too excited yet. He says, "I'm not convinced that somehow, reading the tea leaves, this will be a big year for the Democrats in 26 because of what happened in local elections with 3 to 7% turnout." That said, if I were the Republicans, I would be at least a little bit worried that in a low information, low turnout election, the doctrinaire, far right, almost Christian nationalist conservatives did not fare well. So that the thing with Texas is that the stereotype is that we're not a red state, we're not a blue state, we are a non-voting state, right? Texans do not go out and vote, but whenever they're informed, they do tend to get out there a little bit more. And it is interesting to see as, kind of a barometer of where the state is headed. I think, from the outside looking in, Texas looks incredibly red, right? Like you can't imagine any kind of liberal progressive person living here, but there's a lot of us here. I'm not the only one, I promise, right? It's not just me. But there are a lot of people who are even Republicans who are not that MAGA, they're not that far right that you see on the news, the stereotype that people think of whenever they think of Texans, right? There's a lot of middle of the road people, a lot of centrists. There's a lot of people who just don't identify with any of that. And then they see things that are coming directly into their schools, into their children's schools, and they're not very happy about it. And it's caught a lot of backlash, especially in these suburbs of these big cities, because the cities are blue, right? The suburbs, you get a little bit red there, but a lot of people from the cities, when you have kids, you move out to the burbs. Katy ISD in Houston had one of the best school districts in the Houston area, at least, right? And over the years, seeing what was happening in Katy, it was a little upsetting to see. And even here, my own school district where I live, it was one of the best in the country. And they tried that same stuff. They tried to put these very, very far right MAGA people into the school district. And I remember I was working with this local Democratic group a few years ago, and they were talking about this the Patriot Mobile Pact, right? And these people and what they were trying to do. And there was a huge push to just educate local voters and like beg them to get out and vote in their local elections. So Waz, let's start with you. This is local stuff, right? This is where people feel things, right? It feels like a victory. I want to celebrate it, of course, cautiously. But what do you think this says about where American voters are headed? Are they tired of MAGA?
I don't think it's that. I think what's funny about us doing the Jasmine Crockett thing before is, it felt like she has a lot of contempt for Republican voters. And oftentimes I feel like Republicans have even more contempt for their own voters. And what I mean by that is like, they really sometimes think that every Republican voter is some frothing at the mouth, vicious, racist, sexist, homophobic psychopath. And they often just don't know how to toe the line and leave well enough alone. Sure, you can imagine a group of suburban parents being like, maybe we don't gotta introduce the trans stuff to the second graders just yet. Or maybe we don't need to address the sexuality of any of our staff. And maybe we don't need to do that in the third grade just yet. Maybe we wait till 8th grade for that or whatever. That does not mean they want to take it to let's ban every book that's ever had a queer character in it. Let's completely wash the entire, curriculum of people of color or people with any level of diversity, especially in the Houston area, which, as you know, Yasmin, is one of the most diverse cities in our freaking country. Like, they sometimes just take it too damn far. Now, I don't think this is an invitation for lefties or liberals or progressives to start letting their freak flag fly. I don't think that's what we should then do, but it's just obvious that the conservatives over there, they just overplayed their hand. It's like, guys, relax.
Yeah, what do you think, Sharon?
Tell me more about this freak flag thing he's discussing.
It's in Austin.
I got you.
He just was going on, and I was becoming more and more intrigued. We'll talk offline, apparently. Listen, I don't know what it means, and I'm almost tired of speculating, although I'll continue to speculate, only because we hear a poll comes out, and they say, since the history of elections, this has never happened, this won't go over well. Look, we're in unprecedented times. What I think this could be saying is not necessarily wholesale check that we're done with MAGA box, but boy, we're starting to smell ourselves. We're feeling our power a little bit, like, maybe I'll keep voting. We'll stick with local first, and then maybe we'll expand and say we do have some power here. Other than that, I think Waz is right. You can go too far. Baby steps. This thing where you're taking away democracy, perhaps tiptoe into it a little more if that's your jam. Okay, instead of doing that, what was that? What was he holding? This Musk guy, okay, with the hat on and the glasses, and he thought he was really cool. It's just too much. You're doing too much, and you got run out of town. Nobody likes you, and no one's buying your cars. So I think that's perhaps the lesson here. I don't know what the question was, but nobody's buying his cars. Okay. Well, what's going on? I'm still with this freak flag thing. Okay, it's got me all messed up.
I think there's a way sometimes when we have victories on the left and we're like, oh, this means revolution is coming. We're changing everything about the country tomorrow. And that means X, Y, is just like, bro, most of the stuff people want to go incremental with it. A lot of times we have awakenings about stuff, whether it be, stuff related to trans people or queer people and some of those issues, or any of the stuff that had to do with trans people in sports and all of that stuff. Like we have revelations. We're like, yo, we're for this. And then we go out into the wider country and realize, well, not everybody has met us where we're at yet. I think that's a reality that we gotta sometimes face on the left, where we can't always get our most maximalist version of the thing that we really like to see change in society, and not let good be the enemy of great or perfect, right? If we can get a nice win, let's take it and keep it pushing and not cry that it's not absolutely the perfect win that we want. And I think the Republicans, the right wingers, particularly in a place like Texas, they're like, oh, we've proven over and over again we're a red state, and so they take it too damn far. And I'm glad they got smacked back on this, especially for the kids. We don't want to raise a bunch of dumb dumbs. I mean, they're soft enough as it is, right? Like we don't got to make them stupid. They're mad sensitive, mad scared of everything. Let's at least arm them with some intellect.
Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets his wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated on our live shows.